Okay. Very good. All right, we are live on YouTube, and let's jump in. So I don't anticipate this AMA to be very long for this time, but let's go ahead and jump into the different things we can talk about. No AMA questions the past few weeks, so that's all right. Always a good thing if people feel that they understand what's going on. But of course, feel free to drop any questions you have in the AMA chat or AMA questions for now, and we will address them. So first point, can't hear you in voice chat. Oh. All right, let me try doing this again. All right, can everyone hear me okay? My mic sounds weird. Okay. All right, let me try and adjust these inputs. All right, how's that? There we go. All right, sorry for the delay. Thank you, T1, for your assistance as always. And let's jump in. Okay, so the Sphere Treasury report, hopefully you guys saw that. That was released last month for Q1 2024. So if you have not had the chance yet to review it or watch the video, then please check it out. You can find links in the Sphere announcements channel on Discord and, of course, on the Sphere YouTube channel. But just to highlight a few key points, despite the Dyson concentrated liquidity exploit reimbursement, Sphere's Q1 2024 compared to last year showed very nice growth, with revenue was up 77%, net income was up 312%, and expenses actually went down by 16%. So these are all thanks to our strategic investments, careful budgeting, despite everyone's comments about marketing, and I had to throw that in there, and proactive approach to creating new partnerships. So the next phases for Sphere include the launch of Preon V2 with the goal of driving liquidity to Star and introducing no tokenomics to Preon. I'm sure many of you are aware of that and anticipate that. So this has been taking up the majority of our efforts, and Preon V2, as I'm sure you're also aware, is still in the QA adjustment stage. Beyond that, we are of course still looking to launch Sphere Lend, the ecosystem's zero-interest lending protocol. Sphere itself has tokenomic upgrades in the works, as well as the eventual Sphere V3 integration. And of course, Dyson continues to be developed to improve the user experience and also introduce new vaults, both independently and in conjunction with Preon for more collateral types. So more or less, that's a summary of the Treasury report, but I do encourage you to take a further look if you have not had the chance to already. Now, in other news, if you guys follow Preon's Twitter, you may have seen that we have submitted our LayerZero proposal to request participation in their token distribution. So we have proposed that the LayerZero tokens to be that of those LayerZero tokens to be allocated to Preon, hopefully, 50% would be allocated to users who bridged Star across Polygon, Arbitrum, and Base using Preon's built-in LayerZero bridge. 20% to users who deposited Star in the stability pool on Polygon and Arbitrum where they're active. 20% to users who borrowed Star on Polygon and Arbitrum, and then 10% to a development wallet as per LayerZero's request to support future initiatives aimed at promoting the use of Star. So it's important to note that no allocation will be directed to the team. We really just want to commit to transparency and prioritization of the community's interests. So even though 10% does need to go to a development wallet per LayerZero's request, we will be using that still for the community by using that to promote Star further. You can check to see if your wallet was included in any of those eligible wallets via the Twitter post. So simply follow the link to the proposal through the Twitter post and then navigate to the allocation wallets, which are linked under distribution plan. So go ahead, check those out, see if your wallet is listed and how much of an allocation you might be receiving if LayerZero accepts the proposal. Sinner, when PT airdrop song. Oh dear. I do miss the good old song days. All right. And I did touch on this, but just to reiterate, regarding what our current focus is on, of course, we have our different team members continuing their roles. So, for example, marketing, doing what marketing does best, business development, doing what business development does best, and of course, continued development of the ecosystem from a DApp and contracts standpoint. So, Preon V2 really continues to be the primary focus and does require a lot of coordination to ensure that everything is lined up for launch and that the protocol works as intended via the QA testing and adjustment, which we are undergoing on a daily basis here. So, as I said and promised, pretty short AMA this week. That's really all I have to cover. So are there any questions here in the AMA chat? I see T1. Yes, indeed. I do have quite a backlog of potential songs. A Dyson song, a Sphere song, Sphere Lens song, Preon V2 song. My goodness. You guys have... I don't even know what to say. But yes, any questions about the ecosystem, where we currently stand, utilization of the different protocols? We do see different questions from time to time. For example, people asking where or how to utilize Sphere, that sort of thing, where they can stake Sphere. So glad to see everyone participating and responding to those questions. That's very helpful. You know, these are new people coming into the ecosystem, and we appreciate your guys' help in getting them oriented and answering their questions. Sinner, what are your thoughts on the current overall market? I'd say overall pretty positive. I think there's a lot of very good reasons to be bullish about crypto in general. And I think the next 1 to 2 years will be very exciting. I have other personal opinions and thoughts and such, but I don't want to digress too much. But just for example, I think it'll probably take until the end of this next bull run for a lot of people to finally start to legitimize Bitcoin in their heads. And so then, if that happens at the end of this bull run, then it likely won't be until next bull run that things like Ethereum and DeFi become more legitimized. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. Who knows what will actually happen? We'll see. I do think that tokenization is inevitable and is obviously happening, and it's very exciting and very cool to see how much diversity of financial just how much financial diversity it offers people. What's the status? Status of what? just overall. Yeah, yeah, I think the overall comments are the things we're able to share in those community notes, Um, completion, yeah, progress towards V3. Yeah, those things, of course they're there. They're things that we want to work on and develop and implement. Right now, the focus is really mainly on Preon V2, wrapping everything up with respect to that, coordinating everything that needs to be coordinated, which takes a lot of time and effort. And we want to make sure that we can roll that out as smoothly and effectively as possible, iron out as many bugs as we can before launch, all of those different things. So, unfortunately, that does just take time and effort. Is it just me that has a sharp eye, or does anyone else spot something PT indirectly dropping some alpha? Hmm. How much do you think the ETFs will not affect altcoins like Sphere or other microcaps? Um, that's a good question, Sinner. The majority of people that I've spoken with tend to feel that, um, in a similar way as with prior, it'll be affected in similar ways as with prior. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by T1. Similar ways as with prior bull markets, where the flow of capital tends to go from um, Bitcoin to Ethereum to then altcoins. So I think the likelihood is that after Bitcoin starts gaining more momentum and validation through the ETFs in part, same with Ethereum, then following that, there will be a trickle of capital that then goes into more altcoins, right? So imagine people investing into Bitcoin, Ethereum for the first time. They start making these different profits, then they might feel more courageous and feel they might want to spread that to other things. So, for example, moving that then to altcoins. That's kind of how the general flow has gone in the past bull markets, and I think very likely it'll be similar for these. All right, T1. To be honest, that has been there, the Sphere Lend announcements, for quite a while. So, unfortunately, it is not indirect alpha. Preon V2 development done. Is it mainly QA now? What about Sphere Lend? Let me see specifically. The best I can say is with respect to the community notes. So Preon V2 still in QA and adjustment stage. You may have also noticed Dyson 2.3.1. So some adjustments there with Dyson as well to, again, further help move that forward. Okay, where am I? What about Sphere Lend? Sphere Lend, similar thing with V3 with respect to the focus needs to be on Preon V2 right now and the integrations there. And then once Preon V2 is launched, laid down, has had time to lay its foundation, then it makes more sense to add Sphere Lend on so that we can have that synergy between Dyson, Preon, and Sphere Lend. Center, but don't you think all the inflows on the ETFs will be essentially stuck there so they won't trickle down? No, not necessarily. So, in part, perhaps because you may be dealing more with retirement accounts and things like that, but you're also going to be dealing with people who are may be somewhat interested in crypto or have just have a part that's like maybe I should get interested in crypto and Bitcoin, and they add some money in, they see that it does well, they're like, okay, well, what else does crypto have to offer? So even though the ETFs, may keep money there in the ETFs, just from a psychological standpoint, it can really break down the mental barriers of like, well, crypto is all just scams and I don't want to get involved with that. Going from that into like, okay, well, maybe there's actually something to this. If now there are ETFs that I can invest into, maybe there's more to this whole crypto thing that I can start to explore. And again, this is all just subjective, my opinion. Who knows what will happen? So take it all with a grain of salt, of course. But those are just my thoughts with respect to these things. And again, other people I think see things similarly, where the ETFs have legitimized Bitcoin, now Ethereum as well. And I do think we're just going to see a lot of adoption and integrations with traditional finance, and onboarding is going to become gradually, better and better for people. Things are going to become just easier and easier to access and use. I mean, just look at last bull market versus now. There was only MetaMask basically, and now there's Rabby. And for those who don't use Rabby Wallet, I don't know why you don't, because it's so much better. So that's just one example. I think down the line, once we mature, would be cool to have institutional offerings on Sphere products. How do you mean? I think it was Pandu, maybe Panda. I think it was Pandu, who recently put a very good post out there, kind of breaking down that question of, hey, why doesn't Sphere try and launch on a centralized exchange? There's some really good reasons not to, and one of the biggest being that we were very, decentralized focused versus the centralization. But beyond that, there's a lot of other aspects of adding Sphere to a centralized exchange that just don't make sense. So if someone can find that and share it, that would be helpful. See if I can find it as well. But yeah, I know I'm getting off of your direct question. So, like products for players with big capital. To be fair, that all of our products and projects within Sphere can be utilized with people with big capital. If you mean more like VC funding, like venture capital funding, that's not something that we'd be interested in. That's something that even from the very beginning, Sim had expressed he's not interested in. For example, with the induction of Sphere, because that really takes away from the community focus and puts a lot of control into the hands of those big institutional investors, which we really don't want. Because again, it just takes away from the community. So beyond that, anyone is capable of using Preon, Dyson, Sphere, and hopefully, right, the goal is that the more that this ecosystem is built out, the more that we're able to start to snowball that yield and provide consistent and good real yield, the more people will start to turn their heads and see the staying power of that ecosystem. So when it comes to governance, OXStar, right, exactly, Ralph. Like 30% in Wmatic is really not that bad, considering that's being earned through a non-inflationary asset as well. So OXStar. So when it comes to governance, how will holding VE Sphere benefit holders? What sort of proposals can we vote on? So a lot of that is still to be determined. There's not too much that I can necessarily say for sure about that, just because that's much further out in the ecosystem, sort of thing. So we'll have to kind of put that on hold with respect to the types of things that VE Sphere would be able to do for users. But similar types of ideas of what we've discussed before in terms of VE Sphere being able to earn ecosystem yield and a greater portion versus a non-vote escrowed version of Sphere, for example, as well as thanks T1, as well as being able to potentially vote either on proposals and or vote to then utilize the governance of the Sphere Treasury. So let me hop on over just a sec here. Correct. That would be the idea. The more VE sphere you hold, the more then voting power you would have within the ecosystem and with respect to the sphere treasury. Now, what? Hmm. Okay, hold on. For some reason, I'm not able to access. So just a moment. T1 told me that there is a question on the YouTube stream, and I would like to address it if I can. Okay, so Crypto Companion, as an investor, I've not seen any return on my money. Whilst every crypto has increased, Sphere has continued to drop. When will we see a return? So actually, really, if you looked at the past, essentially year of Sphere, it's more or less been in the same trading range. So to say that it has continued to drop isn't necessarily accurate. Just to point that out. But then on the other side, with respect to return on money, yield lock Sphere has been consistently churning out yield, primarily as W-matic. So that's another aspect I think that is not being considered with respect to that. Okay. All right. Well, thanks T1 for bringing my attention to that. Is Preon in V3 still looking like it was originally announced? I would say for the most part. But let's focus just on Preon for now. There are some nuanced differences that you'll certainly see in time with respect to how the Preon token is set up. And OPreon, VE Preon, those sorts of things. Sphere. Okay. Yeah, I think Yomama Fat, I responded, answered that. Okay, I think I'm all caught up. Good questions, guys. Any other questions? Sure, OXR. So can you explain why there would be a need to hold VE Preon versus holding VE Sphere? Great question. Really would come down to your personal investing strategy and the type of exposure you'd be looking to get. VE Preon would be specific for Preon, right? So you would only be earning yield through Preon, whereas with Sphere, you're able to have access to Preon, to Dyson, to Sphere Lend, all these other ecosystem components, the yield of the Sphere Treasury. So there's a lot more that VE Sphere would have access to in terms of diversification of yield as opposed to VE Preon. So it really, again, boils down to personal interest, personal risk tolerance, what type of yield you're looking for, as well as what type of exposure you'd be looking for. All those sorts of things would play a role with that, but that would be a general breakdown of the difference. And that kind of speaks also to the overarching goal of Sphere as well, as to simplify DeFi in this respect, where just by holding Sphere and vote escrowing Sphere or locking Sphere, you're able to gain access to the yield from all of these different ecosystem components without necessarily having to do them all yourself or even understand what's going on behind the scenes necessarily, because quite frankly it can get pretty complicated, right? There's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of nuances and synergies, and it can be difficult for someone new looking in to kind of grasp and understand all that. So we try and simplify that with Sphere. Right, right. Center put that much more concisely. This is good, guys. This is a really good discussion. Any other questions? I see people typing, so we'll hold out a bit. Let's see. Will the release of Preon be able to stabilize the Sphere price, or will it need the full ecosystem? How can I answer this question? Ultimately, it'd be impossible to say, right? Because it's the free market, and it's up to the market to decide what the price would be. But behind the scenes of that question would be, what does Preon do for Sphere, right? So Preon being an element of the Sphere ecosystem, and the Sphere Treasury receiving a significant allocation of VE Preon, Sphere will be able to benefit from Preon right off the bat to earn yield from Preon, and that yield will be able to be then funneled to Sphere. So in that way, the anticipation would be, so let's say Preon's launch goes very well. There's a lot of yield that's accumulated through Preon. That yield is able to funnel back to YL Sphere. The YL Sphere VAPR increases. That then increases the incentivation of yield locking Sphere. So that would essentially be the goal and thought process behind that. With respect to how that will play out, of course, impossible to say. And again, there's a lot of market dynamics that will dictate that. Interesting. OXstar, I don't really see any massive spike in DeFi until a bull run or when real-world assets can be used as collateral. How can the Sphere ecosystem position itself to get liquidity from what Chainlink is designing? Really good question. I think that there will be a lot of opportunities to build really interesting collateralized assets, and I think it's going to be an interesting balance as well in terms of decentralization and decentralized tokenized assets and centralized tokenized assets, and how much that balance we want to dip our toes into, expand into, and then also what sorts of regulations might come with that in terms of using different types of collateral. So I don't think that one could answer that question very well right now, just because there are so many unknowns and so much potential for a lot of different collateralized assets. But Preon, being a CDP protocol, is set up really well to take advantage of a whole host of different potential collateral options. And especially considering and thinking of it this way, if we want to enhance the synergy between Dyson and Preon, we're going to want to utilize collateral options that are inherently yield bearing, that we can create a vault on for Dyson and then collateralize through Preon, simply because that synergizes with the ecosystem better. So I guess that's a long-winded way of answering that question indirectly, but I think that's the best way I can respond to that. Exactly, yeah, only time will tell, but one thing's for sure is that, these things are coming, right? These things are happening, and we want to be able to establish the foundation of our ecosystem as well as we can in order to take as much of advantage of these different things as we can. Because, yeah, time will tell, and I think a lot of really cool, really interesting things are coming, and I think we are, hopefully, from a market standpoint, my own opinion, I think we're at that tipping point of starting to get more and more people interested in crypto, and from that, more and more people interested in altcoins and DeFi and all of those different things. So, at the end of the day, the point of DeFi is to expand access, to build communities and have communities work together. And that's something that I think personally Sphere has done a really good job at, is trying to work together with other communities and approach things from that constructive, collaborative manner. And I think that that's rewarded over time. All right. Great discussion, guys. Really appreciate all the questions, feedback. Anything else from the community? Let me just double check here on this. We should be good. Okay. All right. Well, I see Lambo typing, but I think we may wrap things up here otherwise. So if you do think of any further questions, feel free to drop them either in Sphere chat, Dyson chat, Preon chat, in the Sphere Discord. Of course, we are more than happy to answer your questions, address your concerns, and listen to your feedback as well. There's been a lot of community feedback that we've really appreciated and have been able to integrate into the different Sphere ecosystem protocols, and we very much appreciate you guys for being here. So, thank you all so much. I still see a couple of people typing, so we'll just give it one more minute, and then we will close things off. Time will tell. I forgot to ask, when can people zap in their stablecoins for Sphere, like on Beefy? If you mean for Dyson, for the different vaults, or for Sphere in particular, both things have been considered and looked into, and it's certainly something that we would like to do. But as with many things, it's something that is put on hold until we're able to really get Preon V2 up and running. Trust me, I'm the same way. I want to zap in, I want to zap out. So I feel it. I know. But so there is some inconvenience there, but yeah, it's just with respect to where we can prioritize our time. So good question. All right, well, let's end it there. Again, if you have any further questions, drop them in AMA questions. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Friendly reminder to utilize any VE tokens that you have to get any bribe rewards. Also check on your Sphere, YL Sphere, if you have any locked. With the epoch change, if you need to either relock or withdraw, be sure that you do that. And always remember that you matter for who you are. And I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.